Hello and welcome to this week's show where we take a look at Oscars for stunts. Three words that do tend to cause the heart to beat a bit faster if you're working within the academy, clearly, because never the twain shall meet as far as they're concerned. But it just seems, as many people seem to understand, it seems like a no-brainer. And I say this because you have a great deal of action in everything these days. There was a time when stunt guys and girls were used in action pictures, westerns, shootouts, police dramas, you name it, they were involved in it. Nowadays, it doesn't matter what it is. It can be children's stories, it can be love stories, it can be animated features. They're involved in all aspects of the stunt work. I say animated, but a lot of people are going, animated features, really? Motion capture. Motion capture is a very large part of a stunt performer's business. And the way that CGI moves on, there's always a new way of being able to do this or do that. So CGI doesn't take away anything from the stunt performer. It sort of increases the action the stunt performer does. The first part of a gag, the CGI does some of it, and then the stunt performer does the landing, for instance. So it elongates the exercise. But the Oscars have always been that one accolade that has been missing. And as we talked about fairly recently, the SAG Awards, they have the Stunt Ensemble Award. The Emmys have a Stunt Ensemble Award as well. The Academy Awards don't. And it's all very well trying to explore it. The problem is that the Academy looks very much as though it has stonewalled at this stage. It's gone, no, and it's just put up the barricades and is preventing any movement forwards. So it's a public option here. I think the more that's discussed about it, and hopefully the more A-list actors and actresses and directors who say, do you know, yes, I think you're absolutely right. You will remember, of course, that there was this moment from the Oscars not too long ago.
And the Oscar goes to Brad Pitt.
This is the second Oscar for Brad Pitt, his first for acting.
Wow. Thank you. This is incredible, really incredible. Hey, I also want to say, while we're doing all this, I think it's time we give a little love to our stunt coordinators and our stunt crews. Listen, I'm a big gobsmacked. I'm not one to look back, but this has made me do so, and I think of my folks taking me to the drive-in to see Butch and Sundance, and loading up my car and moving out here, and Gina and Ridley giving me my first shot, to all the wonderful people I've met along the way, to stand here now. Once upon a time in Hollywood, ain't that the truth?
This is Brad Pitt, of course, winning Best Supporting Actor for the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where he played a stuntman, Cliff Booth. Now, again, the irony surrounding all of this is extraordinary, because you have an actor who wins an Academy Award for playing the part of a stuntman, and yet the very category that he would represent as Cliff Booth isn't supported. Now, as we all know, the action on that picture was spectacular. Zoe Bell, Rob Alonzo behind the action there. The extraordinary fire sequences. I mean, it was top draw. And he said himself there, isn't it about time we gave some love to our stunt coordinators and stunt crews, and everybody applauded, said, yes, you're quite right, let's join in. And then nothing. I mean, that's what the impression it gave. All publicity is good in this instance, I feel, particularly if you can get the momentum rolling. And it seems as though that it's just stopped temporarily. There's been a temporary stop, and if there's a way of being able to, throw a bit more fuel on the fire and get the train a bit closer to the station, then that's ideally what we'd like to be able to do. Over the years, and I take a couple of examples here, but over the years, those movies that have been very successful in Best Picture category have relied on stunt performers. Let's take 1975 as an example. 75, of course, is the year where the awards took place for the movies that were released in 74. And of course, the big movie of 1974 that won a plethora of awards that night was Godfather 2. Godfather 2, not the biggest picture in the world that has lots of action in it. It's got 7 performers on it, right? And therefore was nominated accordingly. Chinatown, stunt coordinator incidentally for Godfather 2 was George Sawyer. Chinatown was one of Hal Needham's and had 3 stunt performers on it, but it was nominated in Best Picture. The Conversation, which was a Gene Hackman movie, that was nominated that year. Buddy Joe Hooker was the stunt coordinator, and he was the only performer. And in the same category for Best Picture nominations that year was The Towering Inferno. The Towering Inferno, a movie that is, ticks every single box as far as stunt performance is concerned. Paul Stader was the stunt coordinator. 94 performers they had there. And also, if you take into consideration, and this is the other thing, there was talk, and I don't know, fairly recently, certainly within the last 5 or 10 years, of if there was to be an award, maybe it could be worked with the special visual effects, because special visual effects have an award, but they also combine the special effects team. Let me take an example. The special effects team, for instance, would maybe build the pipe ramp, or do some special engineering to the vehicle before the stuntman got in it. So on the strength of that, that might be an in. Now, if you take that into consideration for 1974's movies, for 75's Oscars, special visual effects that year, the winner was Earthquake. Another movie that is, again, ticks all the boxes. John Diam, I think, was the coordinator there, and it had 121 performers. Now, in total, that's 226. 226 performers. And if you look at 1980 is another good example. So you had, the winner was Kramer versus Kramer. That was all over the place, but that didn't have any stunt performers in it. Neither did All That Jazz, which was the other movie that was nominated that year. But 2 of the other movies that were there was 4 pictures nominated that year. One was Apocalypse Now. Apocalypse Now, right? Terry Leonard, stunt coordinator. 15 stunt performers credited, which is more or less right, even though you look at that sequence where, the bombing's happening and all the cars are being driven off, and there's explosions everywhere, and you think, really? 15 people? 15 people. And a movie called Breaking Away, which I believe was a Conrad Palmisano movie, and there was 4 stunt performers on that. Now again, visual effects. Let's do the same thing that we've done to the year before to this. Visual effects was won by Alien. Makes a lot of sense, right? There were 4 stunt performers on it. Roy Scammell was the stunt coordinator, and presumably the doubles were involved in the intertwining of the monster itself, of the alien itself. Black Hole, that was a Conrad Palmisano picture as well. That was nominated that year and had, for visual effects, and had 19 performers. Moonraker, the Bond movie, was nominated that year. Bob Simmons, Claude Carley, 32 stunt performers on there. The movie 1941, Steven Spielberg's 1941, Terry Leonard was in charge of the action, and 66 stunt performers, a great many of them involved in that fabulous fight, plus everything else that went on. And Star Trek, the motion picture. Bob Bravler, I want to say that's Bob Bravler, and 7 stunt performers on that picture, which means altogether, if you total up the best picture categories with the visual effects, if they're not already nominated, 147 stunt performers. 147. A huge amount that are involved in creating the action for the final picture. Now, this year is no different. This year's movies, all of the movies that are nominated, all have stunt coordinators and performers, with the exception of the Japanese movie, Drive My Car, is the only difference. And that picture doesn't have, to the best of our knowledge, doesn't have any stunt performers in it at all. And those movies, with all of those movies nominated in special visual effects, you have over 800 stunt performers. 800. No Time to Die, for instance, had 238 on its own. Spider-Man Far From Home was not a million miles away from that as well. 240. So it's a huge amount of individuals that are responsible for all of this. And you see all of this, and you see the bare facts, and you see, look, this is what we have now. We have these incredible films that are pushing the boundaries of this and that, and in order for this character to do what he needs to do, or to get out of this situation, there has to be a car chase, or there has to be a pyrotechnic thing here where the building goes up and there's people coming out on fire and there's this and that. It's all stunt people. It's essentially, if you take that away, you are left with a blank space, or cutaway shots, or dummies. You know, there are how many times have you seen a movie working small budgets from the 70s, let's say, and you're thinking, hey, this is really going somewhere, and that maybe the script's a bit ropey in places, but the action, you're going, oh, the action's okay, and on the basis of some of these shots that are happening, you suddenly see a dummy, and it's difficult not to spot one. Particularly if you're used to the car fishtailing about during a car chase, then the car rolls off the side of the road and a dummy falls out, or the arm, you can very clearly see it's a dummy. You go, no, why? Because they didn't have the budgets in order to do it. But in order to do it properly, and in order to get the right message across, you need to employ stunt people. You also need to employ them. I want to make this very clear. It's not just for the action, it's for health and safety as well, massively important. It's all very well having a stunt performer on a picture. There are some pictures. A good example is the new Jane Campion movie, Benedict Cumberbatch in The Power of the Dog. Stunt coordinator on that picture was Mark Harris. I spoke to him for our podcast. If you want to go back and check that, it was out on Wednesday, and he said himself, not the biggest production as far as action is concerned, effectively 2 performers on the picture, but he was there large proportion of the time for health and safety, because, and as I suppose everybody will have known at one point or another, when actors get cast in certain things, the casting director really, and is, but occasionally they don't, but majority will go, it's a Western, so you can ride a horse. And they go, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. And I was in the 3-day eventing team. Oh, yes. Horse riding, oh, yeah. Oh, brought up on it, mate. Show jumping was in my blood. And then they arrive on set to find that they can't ride a horse. They walk over to the horse and they walk over to the cow in the pasture because they can't tell the difference. They've never seen a horse before. That's where health and safety comes in, and the stunt coordinator will have to work with the horse wrangler, and say, look, this guy, all right, we need to give him some intensive training here. He's only going to have to do this and this, and is there a way we can do this without having to see him actually on the horse itself? So all of these things are taken into consideration. So this is where we are currently, and it appears that it goes round and round. Spokesperson appears to have been spokesperson. I'm sure that's probably not what he wants to be referred to, but he appears to be the face of this campaign is Jack Gill, who, along with Conrad Parmesano, have for 30 plus years, nearly 40 years, been struggling to get the Academy to accept the legitimacy of an award, a nod for stunts. Now, they're not asking for an award for every member of the stunt team, the way that the stunt ensemble is. An action designer award would be perfectly adequate, and that's quite, and that title's been got at over a period of time, because you say the word stunt and it is associated with the physical action of stunting, which is true. Action design is the coordinators working together with the stunt professionals to create, and with the director to create the sequence that they are looking for. And because everybody has a part in this, this guy's been chosen to do the gag, but he will say, do you know what might be simpler? If I do this and then that, and then we go for this, and all of a sudden you've got this section covered, that's a good shot here, and so it's riffing off each other. That's action design. And nowadays, with the aid of CGI, you can then extend a great deal of that action and make it bigger and better. Now, we are going to see an example of this, and it is Jack, and he is in charge of a sequence for the movie Fast 5. He's going to talk you through it, and the basis of this is so that you have an understanding of what is required to get this sequence from A to B. The rest of the time is just words on a page, but he is responsible as the stunt coordinator to go through it, work with the director and say, right, this is a plan of action and this is how we're going to do it. And they work between themselves, with the performers, with the special effects guys, with the visual effects guys, to come up with a plan. And this is Jack doing his thing.
Hi, I'm Jack Gill. I was a stunt coordinator on Fast 5. And I'm going to do a one-scene breakdown of the infamous vault chase in Fast 5. I started out as a stunt person. I really enjoyed doing the high falls and doing all the car wrecks and all the motorcycle wrecks. And then as you get older, you're in a boardroom with a lot of people who don't really know action, telling you to your face that I don't think you can do that. And then you bring it to the screen. That's where the real enjoyment for me is to be able to see something on the screen that they told you couldn't do. The vault chase was easily our biggest chase in the entire film. So at the opening of this bit, we've got Vin and Paul in their Chargers, and they've got cables attached to a vault. They're going to pull the vault through a cement wall and then carry it down through this parking garage and out the front to exit. This is a breakaway wall, obviously, that we're pulling our vault through. And these cables are real cables that go to, but what you don't see on the bottom is we put Delron, which is a really thick plastic, on the bottom of the vault here so that it would slide easier. The problem we found out with the Delron is once you get the vault moving, it doesn't want to stop. So we had to take the Delron off once we got out onto the street, because once the vault started sliding right and left, we never could stop it. This entire square here was all breakaway wall. This was on a stage. Once you see the vault leave that frame, then we're back in a real environment. We brought the vault out of this underground parking garage at speed in our first shot, made the right-hand turn, and tumbled the vault across this whole section you see out here. And we were just guessing as to where that thing would tumble. But that is a real 9,000-pound vault tumbling across all of these cement posts that we put in. We had about 2 of these real steel 9,000-pound vaults, 2 of the driving vaults, and 2 of the semi-vaults, which we'll talk about later. Like I said, it started with Delron plastic to make it slide easier on the inside. What you see here is it's just sliding on steel, titanium, so that it would create sparks out both sides. It was an intricate and tricky little piece because if one of the chargers turns early, he picks up a piece of the safe, and that makes the other charger not be able to pick up his end of it. So they have to have complete tightness on the cables from both chargers at all times. The idea behind the dolly track and the camera being that close to where we knew it was going to crash was that you want the audience to feel that rush in their face. And that's the thing that really makes the difference in a Fast and Furious movie, is that the audience wants to feel that they're part of this chase. And if you can't get the cameras in close enough to the action coming right to your face, you've lost them. What you will see in this shot is something we like to do in all of Fast and Furious is we like to put people in the foreground. And you see this stunt guy right here. Now, he's got to watch that safe. If the cables break, it's coming right for him. And then there's another stunt guy out here. We've got pedestrians here, and crossing in front of camera. You'll see them go right and left. And that gives us the feel that there are people on the streets and it's dangerous. This is a completely different setup for us. What we did is we took all the pedestrians that were in danger out of the way. And we said, bring this thing around the corner as fast as you can bring it, just so we have speed. We knew we couldn't put any stunt people, anywhere over here because it's a dangerous spot. Oh, you have to be careful about each and every one of these shots. And when you see it in the cut, because you've seen all those people in the foreground of the cut before that, your eye doesn't miss all them in this one because it's such a quick cut. In this scene, we knew we wanted to tie in a child in the foreground looking out and seeing the vault being pulled by two chargers. Here's what we did, is we took the bus out of it. We drug the vault, the real vault, around 2 or 3 times till we got the shot we wanted with our other cameras. And then we put the bus back in, and this little girl you see here is Justin Lin, our first unit director's daughter, and we shot over her, and we pulled another vault past it again. But we didn't pull the 9,000-pound vault past her. We pulled another vault past her that we had a hidden pickup truck inside the vault. And I know that's a little tough to understand because a pickup truck's pretty big. But what I did is I took a pickup truck and I cut the entire middle half out of it. From the back of the front wheels to the front of the back wheels, we took that out. And we welded it back together, so all it has is an engine, front wheels and back wheels, and a seat. And that's essentially it. And then we fit it down inside of the vault, and then we gave him steering wheels, and we got this thing about an inch off the ground so that he could actually swing it around the corner and drive it extremely close to this bus without endangering anybody. What we didn't really know was that the truck sitting inside of an enclosed vault creates heat. We knew it would be hot. We didn't know it was going to be 190 degrees in there. So the stunt guy that was in there started passing out on us. So let's bring in dry ice and put it all on top of the steering wheel, in front of the steering wheel, and that'll cool you off. What happens when you bring dry ice into an enclosed surface? It takes all the oxygen out of the air, so now he couldn't breathe. So then I had to put a helmet on him with an enclosed shield and everything, and a pipe that went out the top, so that he could now breathe air that was outside of the vault, and then he was comfortable. So it took a little bit of time to figure all this out, but once we got it past all these little problems, we figured out that this drivable safe was really going to help us. We knew we wanted to roll this vault, and we created this bank building from scratch. This essentially was just a parking lot. Built this entire curb here, built all the steps, built the glass, put it all in there, and knew that we wanted this thing to tumble through. So what we had is 2 stunt guys in Chargers, right here and right here, pulling a real vault in at speed and hitting a parked police car, just to show the immense size of this thing and get it to start turning. When it hits it here, we put a guy in the foreground, which is what I told you about before, to give it a sense of danger. It looks like he's only a few feet away from the vault, But this is what we call a compressed lens, a long lens. It makes our stuntman right here look like he's a lot closer to the vault than he really is. But this is just the first piece of a multiple piece sequence that you'll see. So here we have our entire built bank building. What we wanted on the inside was, we said we want to have a camera on a dolly dollying past people that are inside of the bank building, so that as we're seeing their faces at camera, the vault is tumbling behind them. The second piece of this is the vault is back here, and it's on an enormous ram that's a special effects people built for us. A ram is something that is a hydraulic piece that has a piston that shoots out at an enormous rate of speed and creates the tumbling effect and the speed on an enormous track that goes all the way through the floor of the bank building, so that it can't get off the track and can't hit our stunt people. And when it's sitting back here, it's on these two arms with these two holders on it that are going through the middle. As he pushes it, it starts tumbling, and as it's tumbling, when it hits the outside of the bank building here, it releases, and once it started tumbling, it's now tumbling on its own through there on the track that we want. So in this sequence, we were trying to think of ingenious ways for Paul and Vin's character to stop police cars coming at them. We came up with this idea of splitting and going into an alley each themselves, which then makes the vault come forward toward the police cars that are coming head on at them. The car you see here is towed in. There's no stunt people in that. The car you see here has one stunt person in it with a helmet on and a full cage and everything else. See, the vault was coming in at probably 40, and we were towing in that car at probably 40, so it's an 80-mile-an-hour crash. And then the stunt guy in the back, we told him we thought this car was going to hit, and the back end was going to get a little light, and if you see it get light, try and stuff your car underneath it, and that's exactly what happened. One of the key things to remember in a chase like this, that every time you do a chase scene and you're going down the straightaway at the end of the scene, and I yell cut, the stunt guys driving the Chargers as Paul and Vin have to stop the vault. You can't just slam on the brakes, because that 9,000-pound vault is going to crash into you. So they have to ease off the throttles, not even hit the brakes for about another 40 or 50 feet, and let the vault take another 50 or 60 feet to, slide up behind them. The biggest problem with any motorcycle stunt in any film is that you have no protection. Sure, you've got a helmet most of the time, but with car stunts, you've got metal all around you and a cage and things that protect you. On a motorcycle like this, you can only put on so many pads inside of a police uniform and a helmet, and that's still not steel around you like you have in a car. So you're actually trying to put your feet on some back pegs that you've put on the motorcycle that don't exist in real life. You weld on two little tiny places where you can put your feet back there, so that right before you hit this vehicle, you can push like crazy and get your knees above those handlebars. If your knees hit those handlebars, it then turns you over and you do a nosedive into the hood. So what actually happened here is what our stuntman riding the motorcycle just didn't get off the motorcycle quick enough. He was a millisecond late, and he dug his shoulder into the car right there instead of turning completely over, and broke his shoulder. So in this sequence, we've got a Charger pushing a real 9,000-pound vault backwards out into the street, with the other Charger leading it, and as he comes out, our Charger that's pushing it has to throw what we call a reverse 180. You go as fast as you can in reverse, then you spin the steering wheel, the front end comes around the back end, and then as it comes around all the way around, you throw it into drive and you gas it, and now you're going straight again. It's a very, very difficult move on its own, let alone pushing a 9,000-pound safe. We rehearsed this one scene in a parking lot for almost a week. So we created this entire bus stop. It wasn't there before, and we built all the glass walls and put the top on it and put everything else in there, and then said we're going to have the Chargers split the bus stop, and have the vault go through the middle. You can see that there's a big pole here. And what we wanted the audience to see is that prior to this, a light pole had dropped in the middle of the street. And we wanted this to look like the policeman hit the light pole with the front end. It turned sideways, then the side hit the light pole, and the car tumbles side over side down the street. Well, that's not going to happen in reality and look really spectacular. So what we do, underneath the car, we put what's called a cannon. So just think about a real cannon pointed toward the ground, stuck where the passenger seat is. You weld it all into the cage, and then you give the stunt guy a button. And you say, come in here at speed, pitch the car sideways, hit the button. That cannon fires, shoots the projectile out, hits the ground, and makes this car flip like this. So what this is this is a two-part process. We took the chargers and ran our real 9,000-pound vault into parked cars, cabled to the ground on big steel plates so that they couldn't move. That gives us the most resistance and creates the crush factor that we want. Then we went in and we took all the engines out of these cars and cut some of the cars up so that they crushed a little easier. But then we got bored with it. We thought, we're just not getting the kind of crush factor that we really want. So what you see now is our third vault. And this is going to be a little more difficult to understand, is we took an entire semi-truck. We took the box off of it. It's just the semi-truck tractor. And we stuck it and built a vault around the front three sides of this semi-truck and put huge steel channel all around it so that a semi-truck, which weighs a lot of weight, can hit all these parked cars and crush them and drive away from it. Now, he's never being pulled by the chargers, but we did have the two chargers drive in front of him with no cables so that he could pile drive these parked cars and make them look like Matchbox. We wrecked somewhere between 190 and 210 cars.
You cut loose right now!
So this is the 180 when Vin has to throw a 180 and get the vault to go by him so that he can then go the other direction to attack the bad guys. If he throws it too late or too early, the vault then hits him, which is not a good thing. So we rehearsed this with pylons to simulate exactly what the width of this street was, and we got it down to the perfect line where he could actually throw it. And you can see just how close this vault goes by his back end. You wouldn't want to get hit by it. In every single Fast and Furious, we have to have a wheelie with Vin's car, Vin's Charger, or whatever Vin is in. And so out here we decided, well, how is he going to wheelie with a 9,000-pound vault behind him? We figured, well, that's the reason that will make it work, is once he throws the 180 and then has to go back after the bad guy, there's not two cars pulling it anymore. So that's the perfect spot to add the wheelie as opposed to anywhere else in the chase. Now what we did was put a bunch of weight on the back of the car here, and that weight sticks out a little bit. And when the stunt guy gives it the gas with a 9,000-pound safe on there, it drags a little bit and the front end comes up in the air. Most people don't know this, but when the front end comes up in the air, guess what? You can't steer the car. So you better be going straight. Well, we cheated a little bit. We had turning brakes inside the car. Inside the car, you've got two brake handles. Each brake handle is attached to the rear wheel brakes. So if it starts to go a little right, you just ease on the brake on the left and it pulls it that way until it's straight again. This is where we shear the roof off of a police car. We knew we always wanted to do this because we thought with all these police cars coming head on at them, somebody has to get forced in underneath the cable, and it has to be like a guillotine bit. Well, we put a real stunt guy in there, and what we did was here and all across here and up in the front and all across the front, cut all across there and just left a tiny bit of metal still connecting the top to the car. And then we had our tiniest stunt guy put a helmet on and test running this at the car and the cable and ducking down at the last second. He has to lay over and hide, and we have a camera over his back seeing the cable come at us. And we had a pylon on the side of the road to say, you have to be down by that pylon. You're laying over about a second or a second and a half before the cable shears the car. We did it without the cable 4 or 5 times till we got the timing right, and then I felt comfortable that he was laying over early enough to ensure that he wasn't going to get caught by the cable. And then we did it for real, and it worked absolutely perfect. We knew we wanted to have our VIN double throwing a 180 here. He can only use this half of the frame. When you're throwing a 180, it's a very tight frame like that. It's a tough shot to get because the front end has to be so big in frame. This was the frame that we really wanted, and we want the vault tumbling this direction, but it has to be a CG vault. So it's going to tumble this way all the way through our shot, and this is what he had to leave open. So this is the only time that we really see a CG vault tumbling. So what this was we had Vin, real Vin, jumping out of a car on stage, and then we had a stunt guy jumping out of a real car that's being snatched out of frame very fast. We had a countdown. We had him with the door open. We said 3, 2, 1, go. Stunt guy jumps out on 1, and on go, we snatch this car up and out of the shot like you see it here. Now the car is cartwheeling through the air, which we did on a big, huge crane. We had 2 cranes up in the air. Cranes are all off camera behind us, but you'd see the arms would come down. There'd be cables here, and cables off here, and cables over here, but you can't see the crane arms. They all come in from the top, and they spin this car and cartwheel it, and it goes all the way into there. And we knew that we wanted it spinning as if the vault, which is now in the ocean, is now pulling it toward this car. Just so you know how many pieces are in this last big crash, we could spin the car around and hit our bad guy's car here, which was a Volkswagen Touareg, but it never really hit it with the front end like we wanted. And so after doing the big spinning crash and we hit the Touareg, we took it off, put a new Touareg in, got another Charger, stuck it up in the air, and pulled this Charger way, way back here on a crane and just let it come flying in and have the front end just crush all of this, and then got our actor's POV for the other side of it. When I first get the script to like a Fast and Furious, we are starting usually 3.5 to 4 months before we start filming. And then once we've roundtabled all of the action to where everybody feels like it fits, then we have to go out there and rehearse each and every bit of action to make sure that it's safe for the crew and then safe for the stunt people and the actors. That's the part that nobody really sees. And everybody that I talk to about the show likes the part that everything is real. And if we keep it real, it makes them feel like something that they could be involved in. And I think that's what really makes the difference with, any kind of action series, is to put the audience in the seat with you, and then they feel like they're a part of it. And that's what makes it exciting and entertaining.
So there we go. That is Jack doing his thing, and maybe it opens up the guides. It opens up the box and gets you to look inside, and you realise that there's a great deal more going on than just some guy with a megaphone shouting action. It's just much more than that, So there's a great deal more going on. It's being able to work out all of these possibilities, breakaway sections, having somebody sat inside the safe. There's a clever idea. Let's create the safe and let's allow it to be able to we can drive this down the road and have some control over it. So that's the type of stuff, the important stuff that stunt coordinators do on a daily basis when they are working on pictures, and that is why they should be recognized by the Academy. But it is going to take a great deal more than me just saying so. It is going to take a lot of A-list actors all banging the gong, and whenever they are interviewed, they should be saying, and incidentally, why is there no Oscar for the action unit? Why are the stunt coordinators not getting recognition? Why are the stunt crews not getting recognition? Have you ever asked yourself that question and then move on to the next question? That's all it takes. But it takes that constant bombardment to be able to do that. So if there is anybody who is connected with A-list out there in any shape or form, helpful nudge, please, in the right direction. That would be hugely beneficial. And we will continue to wave the flag here, and I hope you will do exactly the same thing where you are. That is it for this particular week. We will be back next week with more of the same. So until then, it's bye for now.